Lisa Parker stared at her computer screen and rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working for 12 hours straight at the deep space listening post called Watchtower 7. The station floated in the darkness near the edge of the Kepler system. Far from Earth, in any other human world, her job was simple but boring. She listened to radio signals from space, looking for anything that might be important. Most of the time, she only heard the natural sounds of stars and planets. Sometimes, she picked up signals from human ships or colonies. But today was different. The signal came from somewhere very far away. At first, Lisa thought it was just another space noise. But as she listened more carefully, she realized this was not natural. Someone or something was sending this signal on purpose. Lisa called her supervisor, Captain Jake Morrison. Jake was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years fighting in the mining wars around Saturn. He was tough and smart, and Lisa trusted him completely. "Captain, you need to hear this," Lisa said into her radio. Jake walked over to her station. He was drinking coffee from a metal cup that had seen better days. "What do you have, Parker?" Lisa played the signal for him. It was strange and beautiful, like music mixed with static. But there was something sad about it. Too. Something desperate. "Where is this coming from?" Jake asked. Lisa pointed to her star map, the Zephyr Nebula, about 40 light years from here. Jake whistled quietly. "That's a long way." "Are you sure this is not some kind of natural phenomenon?" "It ran it through every test I know." "This is artificial, Captain." "Someone is sending this signal." Jake nodded slowly. "Can you figure out what it means?" Lisa shook her head. "I've been trying for 3 hours. It's not like any language I know, but the computer thinks it might be able to translate it if we give it enough time." "How much time?" "Maybe a few days." Jake thought about this. In his experience, signals from space usually meant one of two things. Either someone was lost and needed help, or someone was trying to warn others about danger. Either way, it was probably important. "Keep working on it," Jake told Lisa. "And let me know the moment you learn anything." For the next 3 days, Lisa barely slept. She fed the signal into the station's most powerful computers. The artificial intelligence systems worked around the clock, comparing the alien sounds to every known language pattern. On the 3rd day, Lisa's computer finally beeped with success. The translation was rough, but it was enough to understand the basic meaning. Lisa read it once, then read it again. Then she ran to find Captain Morrison. She found him in the station's small gym, lifting weights to stay in shape. When he saw her face, he immediately stopped exercising. "What is it, Parker?" Lisa handed him the translation. Jake read it slowly, his face growing more serious with each word. "Please, anyone. They are killing us all. We cannot fight them. If there is mercy in the universe, help us." Jake looked up at Lisa. "Is this accurate?" "The computer is 90% confident." "There's more, Captain. The signal includes star charts and what looks like military data." Jake followed Lisa back to her station. She showed him everything the computers had found. The beings sending the signal called themselves the Clary. They were peaceful traders who had never built weapons, stronger than basic shields for their ships. Their attackers were called the Vorthok. According to the data, the Vorthok traveled from system to system, destroying entire civilizations. Took whatever they wanted and killed everyone else. "How long do the Clary have?" Jake asked. Lisa checked the data again. "Based on the attack patterns, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before they're all dead." Jake was quiet for a long time. He had seen this before during the mining wars. He knew what it sounded like when people were about to die and had no way to save themselves. "Send this to Earth's command immediately," he finally said. "Priority 1, and wake up the night shift. We're going to monitor this signal constantly until we hear back from headquarters." The message reached Earth Command 12 hours later. Admiral Helen Rodriguez read it in her office, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind that could solve complex problems quickly. Helen had been in charge of Earth's military for 5 years. During that time, she had worked hard to avoid conflicts with alien species. Humans had met 12 different alien races, and so far, They had managed to stay on friendly terms with all of them. The official policy was simple: mind your own business. Don't interfere in alien conflicts. Focus on building human colonies and exploring space peacefully. But this was different. This was not a conflict between two alien species fighting over territory. This was genocide. Helen called an emergency meeting of the Human Defense Council. The meeting included military leaders, scientists, and politicians from all over Earth and the human colonies. Commander Ryan Blake was the first to speak. He was in charge of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, a group of fast military ships that explored dangerous areas of space. "Admiral, my ships are already positioned near the outer rim," Ryan said. "We could reach the Zephyr Nebula in 3 weeks if we leave immediately." "And do what?" asked Dr. Susan Wells, the head of the Alien Relations Department. "We know nothing about these species. We don't know their technology, their culture, their motivations. If we interfere, we could make things worse." "How could we make things worse?" Ryan replied. "According to this data, the Kalari will be extinct in a matter of weeks." "Dead is dead, Doctor." The debate went on for hours. Some argued that humanity should focus on protecting its own people. Others said that ignoring genocide was morally wrong. A few suggested sending a small diplomatic mission to try to negotiate peace. But Jake Morrison's voice kept echoing in Helen's mind. He had sent a personal message along with the official report. "Admiral, I've heard this sound before. This is what it sounds like when good people are about to die and there's nobody coming to help them. I've been that person. I know what it feels like to be alone and afraid and waiting for death. If we don't help them, who will?" Helen looked around the room at all the arguing officials. She thought about the Kalari, somewhere far away in space. Listening for any sign that someone had heard their cry for help, she thought about the Vorthok. Destroying entire worlds just because they could, she thought about what kind of species humanity wanted to be. Finally, Helen stood up. The room became quiet. "I've made my decision," she said.
Yeah.
"We're going to help them. Commander Blake, prepare your fleet for immediate departure." "Dr. Wells, I want everything we know about both species sent to the fleet within 6 hours. And somebody get me a direct line to Captain Morrison at Watchtower 7. "Admiral Doctor," Weld said, "this goes against our entire foreign policy. Could be starting a war." Helen looked at her. "Doctor, there's already a war. The question is whether we're going to let good people die while we sit here and debate policy." She turned. To the rest of the room, the Kalari asked for mercy. They're about to find out what human mercy looks like. 6 hours after Admiral Rodriguez gave the order, every human military base in the galaxy was busy with activity. Ships that had been sleeping in orbit suddenly came alive with lights and movement. Soldiers who had been on leave were called back to duty. Supply ships began loading weapons and food for a long journey. Captain Amy Foster stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution and watched the chaos with satisfaction. Her ship was the newest and most powerful vessel in the human fleet. It had been built with lessons learned from every war humans had ever fought. "Status report," Amy called to her crew. "All systems ready, Captain," replied Lieutenant Dan Cooper, her navigation officer. "Can leave orbit in 30 minutes." Amy nodded. Round her ship, 17 and other vessels were making similar preparations. This was the largest human military force ever assembled. Every ship had been designed for one purpose: winning wars, unlike alien ships that were built for exploration or trade. Human ships looked like what they were. They had thick armor, powerful weapons, and redundant systems that would keep them fighting even when badly damaged. Other species built elegant ships that looked like art. Humans built ships that looked like weapons. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos walked through the cargo hold of the transport ship Guardian, checking on her Marines. 20,000 human soldiers were preparing for the possibility of ground combat on an alien world. "Listen up," Maria told her troops. "We don't know much about what we're going to face out there, but we know some things. Kalari are peaceful people who never learned how to fight wars. The Vorthok are killers who enjoy destroying entire civilizations." She paused and looked at the faces of her soldiers. They were young and old, men and women from every human colony. But they all had the same look in their eyes. They were ready for battle. "Our job is simple," Maria continued. "We're going to stop the Vorthok from killing innocent people. We're going to show them what happens when they mess with species that humans have decided to protect." The soldiers nodded. They had trained for this their entire careers. Fighting in space, fighting on alien planets, fighting in environments that would kill most creatures. They were ready. Dr. Paul Wagner sat in his laboratory aboard the science ship Discovery, studying every piece of information they had about the Kalari and the Vorthok. As the fleet's xenobiologist, it was his job to understand alien species. The Kalari were fascinating creatures. They were made of silicon instead of carbon like humans. They communicated by making harmonic sounds that were beautiful to hear. They had developed advanced technology for space travel and trade, but they had never needed to build weapons. The Vorthok were different. They were large, armored creatures who had spent centuries conquering other species. They traveled in bioships that were actually living creatures. They were strong, aggressive, and had never been defeated in battle. Paul studied the tactical data that the Kalari had sent. The Vorthok had a simple strategy. They surrounded a planet with their ships, then landed troops to capture the population. Most species surrendered after losing their first world. "They've never faced humans before," Paul muttered to himself as he worked. "They have no idea what's coming." Commander Ryan Blake stood in the command center of the flagship Determination, coordinating the movements of the entire fleet. His ships were spread out across several light years, all moving toward the same destination. Ryan had been fighting in space for 15 years. He'd seen pirates, smugglers, and hostile aliens. But he had never led a fleet this large into battle against an enemy this dangerous. "Sir," called Communications Officer Karen Bell, "we're receiving updated intelligence from Watchtower 7. Ryan read the report quickly. The news was bad. 2 more Kalari worlds had gone silent. Their homeworld of Kalaris Prime was still sending signals, and those signals were getting weaker. "How long until we reach the Zephyr system?" Ryan asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed, sir." Ryan hoped they would not be too late. The Kalari had asked for help, and humans were coming. But space was big, and even the fastest ships needed time to cross such distances. Captain Amy Foster received a private message from Admiral Rodriguez while the fleet was traveling through space. The message was recorded, but Amy could see the determination in the Admiral's eyes. "Captain Foster," the recording said, "you are about to participate in humanity's first major military action against an alien species. I want you to understand something very important. We are not going to the Zephyr system to negotiate or to try diplomatic solutions. We are going there to stop genocide." The Admiral paused and looked directly into the camera. "The Vorthok have spent years destroying peaceful civilizations. They think they are the strongest species in the galaxy. They think that might makes right. They are about to learn that they are wrong." Amy listened carefully to every word. "You have full authorization to use any weapons and tactics necessary to eliminate the Vorthok threat. There will be no warnings given. There will be no chance for surrender. Show them what humans do to species that commit genocide." The message ended, and Amy sat quietly in her captain's chair. She understood what the Admiral was really saying. This was not going to be a normal battle where both sides followed rules and tried to minimize casualties. This was going to be total war. Dr. Paul Wagner continued studying alien biology during the 3-week journey. The more he learned about the Vorthok, the more he understood why they had been so successful. They were physically superior to most alien species, were larger, stronger, and had natural armor. But Paul also noticed something interesting in the data. The Vorthok always fought the same way. They used their size and strength to overwhelm smaller, weaker opponents. They had never needed to develop complex tactics or advanced strategies. "They're bullies," Paul said to his assistant. "They've been beating up smaller kids for so long that they don't know how to fight someone their own size." As the human fleet approached the Zephyr Nebula, long-range sensors began detecting signs of the battle ahead. Captain Foster studied the readings with her tactical officer. "How many Vorthok ships?" she asked. "Approximately 300, Captain. They have the Kalari homeworld completely surrounded." Amy nodded. The humans were outnumbered almost 4-1. In most military situations, those odds would be considered impossible. But human military doctrine was built around fighting against superior numbers. Every human ship, weapon, and tactic was designed to win battles where the enemy had more ships. Commander Blake sent the final briefing to all ships in the fleet. We will arrive at Calaris Prime in 6 hours. Intelligence indicates that the planet is under siege but still fighting. Our mission is simple. Destroy every Vorthok ship in the system. He paused and looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of enemy contacts. The Vorthok have never fought humans before. They don't know our capabilities, our tactics, or our determination. They are about to receive an education in human warfare. All ships, prepare for battle. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos gathered her Marines for the final briefing before combat. Remember your training, she told them. We are representing humanity today. The Kalari are going to see what humans are capable of when we decide to help someone. She looked at her soldiers, knowing that many of them might not survive the coming battle. The Vorthok think they are the strongest species in the galaxy. Let's show them what real strength looks like. The human fleet prepared to drop out. Of faster-than-light travel, Captain Foster sent one last message to Admiral Rodriguez on Earth. Admiral, we are about to engage the enemy. The Kalari called for help, and we answered. Whatever happens next, they will know that someone heard their cry and came to fight for them. The fleet dropped into normal space at the edge of the Kalaris system. Ahead of them, 300 Vorthok bioships surrounded the dying Kalari. Homeworld-like predators around wounded prey, the aliens had no idea that death was coming for them. The attack began without warning at exactly 3:47 in the morning, ship time. The Vorthok had no idea the human fleet was there until death started falling from space. Commander, Ryan Blake had studied the enemy formation for exactly 12 minutes before giving the order to attack. The Vorthok ships were arranged in a loose circle around the Kalari homeworld, confident that no one would dare challenge them. They were wrong. The first wave was not even manned ships. Captain Amy Foster watched from the bridge of the Retribution as 20 unmanned drone vessels accelerated toward the largest Vorthok bioships. Each drone was packed with enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. Impact in 30 seconds, reported Lieutenant Dan Cooper. Amy counted down silently. At exactly 30 seconds, space lit up with explosions that could be seen from several star systems away. 12 of the largest Vorthok vessels simply disappeared, turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The remaining Vorthok ships immediately began moving, trying to understand what was happening. Their bioships screamed in frequencies that hurt to hear, calling out in confusion and pain. They had never been attacked so suddenly or so violently, Captain. Nathan Cross commanded the heavy cruiser Nemesis as it led the second wave of the attack. His ship was built like a flying fortress, with armor thick enough to stop most alien weapons and guns. It's powerful enough to crack planets. The Vorthok tried their usual tactics. Dozens of their ships swarmed toward the Nemesis, planning to surround it and tear it apart with superior numbers. This strategy had worked against every other species they had fought. But humans had been fighting outnumbered for thousands of years. Every human ship was designed to handle exactly this situation. All weapons, fire at will, Nathan ordered calmly. The Nemesis erupted with weapon fire in every direction. Point defense systems that were designed to stop incoming missiles tore apart the smaller Vorthok ships like paper. Heavy guns that could punch holes through asteroids reduced the larger bioships to floating wreckage. The Vorthok discovered something terrifying about human ships. They did not fight like other aliens. Most species built ships that tried to avoid damage and retreat when things went badly. Human ships were built to keep fighting even when they were falling apart. When the Nemesis took damage to its main engines, it kept fighting with backup power. When enemy fire destroyed its primary weapons, secondary guns immediately took their place. When the armor was breached in 6 places, the crew sealed the holes and continued the battle. Dr. Paul Wagner watched the battle from the medical ship Sanctuary, recording everything for future study. He was amazed by what he saw. Were large, powerful creatures with natural armor and advanced biotechnology, but they were losing badly. It's not about size or strength, Paul said into his recorder. It's about how you fight. The Vorthok are used to scaring enemies into surrender. Humans don't scare easily. On the planet below, the surviving Colliery huddled in underground shelters, listening to the sounds of battle in space. They had been sending desperate signals for weeks, hoping someone would hear and come to help. Now someone had come, and the sounds of dying Vorthok ships echoed through their atmosphere. Elder Zefka, the leader of the remaining Kalari, spoke to his people through their harmonic communication system. The signals from space indicate a new species has arrived. They are fighting the Vorthok with incredible effectiveness. The Kalari had never seen real warfare before. Their species had evolved as peaceful traders who solved problems through negotiation and compromise. The violence happening above their world was beyond their understanding, but they could hear the Vorthok bioships screaming as they died. They began to hope. The space battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Vorthok invasion fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single enemy ship escaped. The humans had lost 3 vessels and suffered 2,000 casualties, but they had achieved total victory. Captain Amy Foster stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking at the wreckage floating in space around the Kalari homeworld. Pieces of Vorthok bioships drifted past her viewports like bizarre alien snow. "Status report," she ordered. "All Vorthok vessels destroyed, Captain," reported her tactical officer. "The planet appears to be secure." Amy nodded, but she knew this was only the beginning. According to the intelligence they had gathered, the destroyed fleet was just an advance force. The main Vorthok armada was still coming. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos finally got her chance for ground combat when human shuttles landed on Kalaris Prime. The Vorthok had left behind ground forces to capture Kalari civilians, and those forces were still dangerous. Maria's Marines moved through the ruined Kalari cities like a force of nature. The Vorthok ground troops were massive creatures, each standing 3 meters tall with thick natural armor. They had never been defeated in hand-to-hand combat, but humans had something the Vorthok had never encountered: powered exoskeletons and advanced tactics. Where the Vorthok relied on size and strength, humans used teamwork, superior weapons, and centuries of military experience. The first Vorthok warrior that Maria's squad countered tried to intimidate them by roaring and displaying its massive claws. The humans responded by shooting it with plasma rifles from 3 different angles simultaneously. The creature died before it hit the ground. "Move forward," Maria ordered her troops. "Find every Kalari civilian and get them to safety. Kill every Vorthok that doesn't surrender immediately." Now the ground battle was over in 4 hours. The surviving Vorthok troops did something they had never done in their species' history. They surrendered. Faced with human soldiers who fought with machine-like efficiency and showed no fear, the mighty Vorthok warriors gave up. Dr. Paul Wagner was amazed by the psychological impact of the battle. He monitored Vorthok communications during the fighting and recorded their growing panic and confusion. One Vorthok commander had transmitted to his remaining forces: "They fight like the universe owes them blood. They show no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. Wow. Do we fight beings who welcome death in battle?" But the most important transmission came near the end of the space battle. A dying Vorthok ship captain sent a message that would change galactic history, warn the home fleet. "Tell them about the humans. Tell them we have found a species that fights wars the way we thought only we could fight wars. They are death itself, and they have chosen to protect the prey species." Commander Ryan Blake received troubling intelligence reports as the human fleet regrouped around Kalaris Prime. Long-range sensors had detected massive movement in deep space. The main Vorthok armada was accelerating toward their position. "How many ships?" Ryan asked his intelligence officer. "Over 1,000, sir. It will arrive in approximately 6 weeks. Ryan looked at the tactical display. His fleet had just won an incredible victory, but they had also revealed human military capabilities to the enemy. The next battle would be much harder. Captain Amy Foster received orders from Admiral Rodriguez on Earth. The message was simple, but chilling. "The Vorthok main fleet is coming. You are authorized to request additional forces and use any weapons necessary to ensure total victory. Show them what happens when they threaten species under human protection." Amy understood what this meant. The gloves were coming off. The battle for Colaris Prime had been a skirmish compared to what was coming next. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos walked through the ruins of a Kalari city, accompanied by some of the alien survivors. The Kalari were grateful but clearly frightened by their human rescuers. They had never seen creatures who could fight so efficiently and ruthlessly. "Thank you for saving us," Elder Zefka said to Maria through a translation device. Maria looked at the destroyed city around them, then at the alien elder. "Don't thank us yet," she said quietly. "This war isn't over. The real fight is still coming." As the human fleet prepared for the larger battle to come, word of their victory spread. Through galactic civilization, the peaceful traders from Earth, the species that had always avoided conflicts, had revealed their true nature. When humans finally decided that violence was necessary, they did not just fight. They waged total war with an efficiency that terrified even their allies. The galaxy was about to learn what human mercy really looked like. 6 weeks later, Admiral Helen Rodriguez arrived at Colaris Prime with the full strength of the human defense fleet. The armada that emerged from faster-than-light travel was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled in one place. 312 human warships took positions around the Kalari homeworld. Each ship had been designed for extended combat operations against overwhelming odds. This was not a rescue mission anymore. This was an extermination fleet. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the new flagship, Vengeance, from the bridge that overlooked the entire battle formation. Her ship was twice the size of any vessel in the original rescue fleet, built specifically for destroying enemy civilizations. "Admiral Rodriguez wants to speak with the Kolari leadership," Lisa told her communications officer. The meeting took place aboard the Vengeance in a conference room that had been modified for alien visitors. Elder Zefka and 3 other Kalari survivors came aboard the human flagship. Escorted by armed Marines, the Kalari were shocked by their first close look at humans. Admiral Rodriguez was a small woman compared to the massive Vorthok warriors. But something about her made the aliens instinctively afraid. Her eyes were sharp and focused, like a predator watching prey. "Elder Zefka," Admiral Rodriguez said through the translation device, "your people called for help. We came." The Kalari elder made harmonic sounds that the computer translated as gratitude. "We thank you for saving our world from the Vorthok invasion force. We are forever in your debt." Admiral Rodriguez shook her head. "You don't understand. We didn't come here to save you. We came here to end them, completely." The Kalari looked confused. Elder Zefka asked, "What do you mean?" "The Vorthok main fleet is 6 days away. Over 1,000 ships carrying hundreds of thousands of warriors. When this battle is over, the Vorthok will never threaten anyone again." The alien elder was quiet for a long moment. "You mean to destroy their entire civilization?" "Yes," Admiral Rodriguez said simply. "That's what humans do to species that commit genocide. We make sure they can never do it again." The Kalari left the meeting deeply disturbed. They had asked for help, but they had not expected their rescuers to be more terrifying than their enemies. Dr. Paul Wagner continued his studies of alien psychology as the human fleet prepared for the final battle. He had been monitoring Vorthok communications and noticed something interesting. Survivors of the first battle had warned their main fleet about human capabilities. "They're scared," Paul reported to Admiral Rodriguez. "The Vorthok have never encountered a species that fights like humans. Their whole society is based on being the strongest, most violent race in the galaxy. Now they've found someone who might be stronger." The Vorthok main fleet arrived exactly when human intelligence predicted. Over 1,000 bioships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Colaris system, expecting to find their advanced force victorious and a new world ready for harvesting. Instead, they found a human battle line that stretched across 3 astronomical units. Commander Ryan Blake stood in the command center of his flagship. Watching the enemy fleet take formation. The Vorthok had brought everything they had. This was their entire military force, accumulated over centuries of conquest. "All ships report ready for battle," his tactical officer announced. Ryan opened a communication channel to the entire human Fleet. This is Commander Blake to all vessels. Today, we end the Vorthok threat forever. Show them what human mercy looks like. The Vorthok Fleet Commander, an ancient creature known as the Harvester Supreme, tried to communicate with the human ships. The message was simple: surrender now, and we will kill you quickly. Admiral Rodriguez personally replied to the ultimatum, no. That single word was the last communication between the two fleets. The battle that followed was not really a battle. It was the systematic extermination of an entire military force. The humans had studied Vorthok tactics for 6 weeks and prepared counters for every strategy the aliens might use. Captain Amy Foster led the first attack wave aboard the Retribution. Her ship had been repaired and upgraded with new weapons specifically designed to kill bioships. When the Vorthok tried their traditional swarming tactics, they discovered that human ships were ready for them. The Retribution fired in all directions simultaneously. Its weapon systems coordinated by computers that could track thousands of targets at once. Vorthok bioships that had terrorized entire civilizations were destroyed in seconds by weapons they could not understand or defend against. Captain Nathan Cross commanded a squadron of heavy cruisers that specialized in ramming attacks. When conventional weapons were not enough, human ships simply flew directly into enemy vessels at high speed, destroying both ships but taking far more enemies with them. The Vorthok had never seen tactics like this. Most species tried to preserve their ships and minimize casualties. Humans seemed willing to sacrifice anything to achieve victory. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos led boarding parties against the largest Vorthok bioships. Her Marines used cutting tools to slice through the organic holes, then fought their way through the internal passages in powered armor. The hand-to-hand combat was brutal. Vorthok warriors were larger and stronger than humans, but human soldiers fought with a coordination and ruthlessness that the aliens could not match. Where individual Vorthok relied on personal strength, human Marines used teamwork and superior technology. The most decisive moment came when Commander Ryan Blake led a direct assault on the Harvester Supreme's flagship. The massive bioship was the size of a small moon, but human boarding pods cut through its defenses like bullets through paper. The final battle took place in the creature's central nervous system, where the Harvester Supreme controlled its fleet. Ryan and 50 Marines fought their way through Vorthok defenders to reach the ancient alien commander. The Harvester Supreme was dying when Ryan found it. The creature had lived for over 1,000 years and conquered 17 star systems. Now it was bleeding to death in the ruins of its own ship. "You cannot destroy us all," the creature whispered through its translator. The Vorthok are scattered across the galaxy. Ryan looked down at the dying alien, and will hunt down every last one of them. That's what humans do. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, every single Vorthok ship had been destroyed. The human fleet had suffered heavy casualties, losing 47 vessels and 15,000 personnel. But they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had completely exterminated an entire military force without allowing a single enemy to escape. Captain Amy Foster walked through the ruins of a Kalari city 3 days after the battle, accompanied by Elder Zefka and other survivors. The aliens were grateful but clearly terrified of their human protectors. "Your people fight like demons," Elder Zefka said quietly. "We have never seen such violence." Amy looked at the damaged buildings around them, then at the alien elder. "We fight like humans," she said. "There's a difference." Word of the battle spread quickly through galactic civilization. Every alien species learned the same lesson. Humans were not the peaceful traitors they had pretended to be when pushed to violence. They waged war with a totality that defied comprehension. Admiral Rodriguez addressed the Galactic Council for the first time in human history. The message was broadcast to every known alien civilization. "Humanity hereby declares the Kalari people under our protection," she announced. "Any species that harms them will be visited by our fleets. We trust this message is understood by all intelligent life in the galaxy." The response was immediate. Every alien ambassador sent messages of understanding and compliance. None of them wanted to face what the Vorthok had faced. Dr. Paul Wagner completed his final report on the Kalaris campaign as the human fleet prepared to return home. His conclusions would reshape how aliens viewed humanity forever. Humans are remarkably peaceful, he wrote. They will tolerate almost any provocation and seek diplomatic solutions to nearly every problem. But when they finally decide that violence is necessary, they wage it with a completeness that other species cannot comprehend. He paused and looked out at the stars, thinking about what humanity had accomplished. The galaxy has learned an important lesson. Humans are not just another member species. They are the apex predators of civilized space. They have chosen to use that power to protect the innocent. The Kalari created a new word in their harmonic language after the humans left. It meant both savior and terrible swift death. They used it only when speaking of the species that had answered their cry for help and changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had shown the universe what happened when someone made them angry enough to go to war. The lesson would not be forgotten.